1 hour until the plane took off, and the air around me felt thick with betrayal. I stood in the terminal's bustling crowd, watching the swarm of passengers move like a river, each one pulsing with anticipation. Their excitement a stark contrast to the cold dread settling deep in my chest. My daughter, Maya, was among them. She had her back turned to me, obliviously rolling her suitcase toward Gate 12, ready to escape a life she claimed was stifling, all in pursuit of a dream that was never hers to begin with. The betrayal felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I could still hear her words echoing in my mind, the venom laced in her voice when she told me she could no longer live under my roof, that I was just a remnant of the past, an obstacle in her path. I had tried to reason with her, to remind her of the values I had instilled in her since childhood, that family comes first, that loyalty is paramount. But it was all drowned out by the allure of a new life, a brighter future, and the toxic whispers of her new friends, those who had painted me as the villain in her story. As I watched her, I couldn't help but feel the weight of my own failures. I was a man of quiet resolve, a retired schoolteacher who had devoted his life to nurturing young minds. Yet I had somehow lost my own daughter to a world of glitz and allure. But this wasn't just about her leaving. It was about the way she had gone about it. She had betrayed not just me, but everything we had built together, everything I had sacrificed. And now, she was about to board a plane to a life that would strip her of her dignity, all for the sake of someone else's ambition. I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the wall. My heart raced, not just with anxiety, but with a cold, simmering anger. I had to stop her. I had to make her understand that this was not just a fleeting whim, but a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. I felt a knot in my stomach twist tighter, a visceral reaction to the realization that she was being manipulated. It wasn't just her choice. It was someone else's design, a betrayal layered with deceit. I glanced at my watch. 59 minutes until the plane took off. I had 1 hour to prevent her from making the biggest mistake of her life. I pushed through the crowd, weaving past families and couples, my eyes never leaving Maya as she approached the gate. I could see the way her shoulders slumped slightly, the way she glanced back, half expecting someone to stop her. But no one did. No one but me. As I closed the distance, the air crackled with tension. I could feel the stares of strangers, the judgment in their eyes as they watched a father pursue his daughter. But they didn't understand. They didn't know the depths of the betrayal I was confronting. I had sacrificed so much for her, endured years of hardship and loneliness, and now I was faced with the possibility of losing her to a shadowy underbelly I could not even begin to fathom. The memories flooded my mind. Maya as a little girl, her laughter echoing through the halls of our home, her wide-eyed wonder at the world around her. I remembered the nights I spent helping her with homework, the pride swelling in my chest when she performed at school events. I had poured my heart and soul into raising her, only to have it all thrown away for the sake of a fleeting dream. But beneath the surface of my pain, I knew there was something deeper at play. There had to be a reason for her sudden change, something that had driven her to this point. I had seen the signs, the late-night messages, the secretive phone calls. A part of me had hoped it was just teenage rebellion, but now it felt like a carefully orchestrated plan, and I was determined to uncover the truth. I reached the gate just as the attendant called for final boarding. Maya paused, glancing back one last time, uncertainty etched across her face. My heart sank as I saw the flicker of doubt in her eyes. I took a step forward, my voice steady but laced with urgency. "Maya!" She turned, surprise and confusion flashing in her gaze. "Dad? What are you doing here?" There was a hint of panic in her voice, a crack in her bravado. "I'm here to talk," I said, forcing myself to keep my tone calm, despite the storm raging within me. "Please don't do this. Just give me a moment." The attendant glanced at me, her expression disapproving, but I didn't care. I had only one focus, the girl standing before me, caught between the pull of a false promise and the weight of her own choices. "I can't," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need to go. You don't understand." "Then help me understand," I implored, stepping closer, my heart pounding. "This isn't just about you. It's about what you're leaving behind. It's about the people who love you." Her gaze darted around, panic rising like a tide. I could see the struggle within her, the internal battle between the desire to flee and the pull of familial loyalty. But I couldn't let her escape without knowing the truth, without understanding the consequences of her actions. I took a deep breath, letting the weight of my words sink in. "Maya, please, if you walk away now, you may never find your way back. And I don't think you really want that." For a moment, time stood still. The world around us faded into a blur, the noise of the terminal drowning out as I focused solely on her. I had 1 hour. 1 hour to reclaim my daughter and expose the betrayal that threatened to tear us apart. In that moment, I made a silent vow. I would not let her slip away into the darkness. I would fight, not just for her, but for the love and trust that had been shattered between us. As the final call echoed through the terminal, I knew I had to act. I had to reach her before it was too late. This was not just a battle for her future. It was a fight against the very forces that had conspired to pull us apart. With determination coursing through my veins, I stepped closer, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The final boarding call shatters the ambient noise of the airport terminal, a cacophony of rolling suitcases, muffled conversations, and the distant whir of conveyor belts. It pierces through the haze of confusion and heartbreak that envelopes the father, each syllable a reminder of the precious moments slipping away. His heart races, each beat echoing the urgency of the moment. He steps forward, his voice shaky but resolute, a desperate plea rising from the depths of his soul. "Maya," he calls, his throat tight as if laced with barbed wire. "Please, just a moment." She turns, her eyes clouded with uncertainty, a tempest of rebellion and regret swirling just beneath the surface. For a fleeting second, he sees the little girl he once knew, the one who would run to him with scraped knees, seeking comfort and solace. That image is a stark contrast to the young woman standing before him, poised on the precipice of a choice that could shatter everything they've built together. "Maya, this isn't just about you. You're not just leaving me. You're leaving everything we've shared. Don't you see that?" His words hang in the air, heavy with the weight of his emotions, as he desperately searches her eyes for a flicker of recognition, a glimmer of the bond they once shared. "I know what I'm doing," she replies, her voice wavering but laced with an undercurrent of defiance. "You don't understand. It's not like that. I have to go." The way she says those words feels like a knife twisting in his gut. He knows that beneath her bravado lies a fear he wishes he could shield her from. He could shield her from everything, if only she would let him. Memories flood his mind, family dinners filled with laughter, lazy afternoons spent in the backyard, her bright smile framed by the warm afternoon sun. He had always been her protector, the one who taught her to believe in herself. And now, here he stood, feeling like a ghost haunting the edges of her new life. "Maya, please," he implores, stepping closer, his heart pounding like a war drum. "I've sacrificed so much for you. I've always wanted what was best for you, but this isn't what's best. It's a mistake." She shakes her head, tears pooling in the corners of her eyes, but she refuses to let them fall. "You don't get it. This isn't just a whim. I need to find myself. You can't keep holding me back. These friends—" She hesitates, as if the weight of her words threatens to crush her. "They see me for who I really am. They understand me." The mention of her friends sends a jolt of anger racing through him, a raw, primal instinct to protect his daughter from the influences he feels are leading her astray. "Those friends?" he counters, his voice rising above the din of the terminal. "What do they know about you? About us?" They don't know the sacrifices we've made together. They don't know how hard you've worked for everything you have. His words seem to hang in the air, and for a moment, he thinks he sees her wavering, the steel resolve in her eyes flickering like a candle in a storm. He steps closer, desperate to bridge the chasm that has formed between them. "Do you remember that summer we spent in the mountains?" he asks, his voice dropping to a softer, more intimate tone as memories flood his mind. "Just you and me, hiking those trails, talking about our dreams? You said you wanted to be a writer. Remember how we would sit by the fire at night and you'd read me your stories? You had so much talent, Maya. You could still chase that dream. You don't need to leave everything behind." For a heartbeat, he sees the flicker of something in her eyes, a moment of hesitation, perhaps a glimmer of the past. But then it's gone, swallowed by the storm of her conflicting emotions. "That was just a dream, Dad. It's not enough anymore. I need to explore, to discover who I am outside of this place." The words puncture his heart, an arrow aimed at his very essence. She's right. They've spent so many years in this town, in this house, and yet he can't shake the feeling that she's being swept away by something far more dangerous than mere wanderlust. He glances around, the bustling terminal a blur of faces, each one oblivious to the storm raging at gate 23. "Maya," he says, his voice barely above a whisper now, the fight draining from him. "What if you're being manipulated? What if these friends don't have your best interests at heart? I've seen how they look at you, how they've changed you. This isn't just about finding yourself. It feels like you're running away." She flinches, and for a moment, the facade of confidence crumbles. "You don't know them like I do. They care about me." Her voice cracks, and the defiance gives way to vulnerability. "Maybe they understand me better than you do." His heart sinks at her words, a leaden weight settling in his chest. He feels the walls closing in, the noise of the terminal becoming a distant murmur as he grapples with the reality of it all. Was he really losing her to this world he had always feared? "I'm trying to understand, Maya," he replies, his voice tinged with desperation. "But it feels like you're slipping away, and I don't know how to stop it. I don't want to lose you." The sincerity in his voice seems to break through her defenses for a moment, and he watches as her face softens, a flicker of doubt crossing her features. She takes a step back, her grip on her backpack tightening, as if it's the only thing tethering her to this moment. "Dad, she trails off, frustration etched across her beautiful face. "You don't have to be so scared. I'm not a child anymore. I can make my own choices." The words hang between them, heavy and suffocating. He swallows hard, trying to grasp at the threads of their relationship, desperately wanting to weave them back together. "But what if this choice leads you down a path you can't return from? I can't bear the thought of you getting hurt." A shadow passes over her face, the weight of his concern hitting her like a freight train. "You think I'm not strong enough to handle it? You think I can't take care of myself?" "No, it's not that," he rushes to clarify, his heart aching for her frustration. "I just want to protect you from the pain I've seen in this world. I've lived long enough to know that not everything is as it seems. Not everyone has your best interests at heart." Her eyes flash with anger, and he can feel the distance widening. "I need to go," she says, her voice firm yet trembling. "I can't stay here, feeling trapped. I need to find my own way." Time slows as the final boarding call echoes through the terminal, an ominous harbinger of everything he fears. The realization strikes him with all the force of a tidal wave. He is losing her. The thought sends a jolt of panic racing through his veins, and he takes a step forward, feeling the weight of desperation clawing at his throat. "Maya, please," he pleads, his voice cracking under the strain. "Let's talk about this. Let's find a way to understand each other. I don't want this to be the last time we see each other. You're my daughter. I love you." Her expression softens for just a heartbeat, and for an instant, he sees a flicker of the girl who once confided in him, who once sought his guidance. But then, as if steeling herself for the inevitable, she shakes her head, her voice resolute yet tinged with sorrow. "I have to go," she repeats, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I can't let you hold me back anymore." The finality of her words strikes him like a physical blow, and he feels the ground shift beneath his feet. He watches as she turns, her back to him, and begins to walk away. Each step feels like a fracture in his heart, the bond they once shared fraying and unraveling. "Maya!" he calls after her, desperation clawing at his chest. "Wait, please don't." But the sounds of the terminal drown his voice, the hurried footsteps of other passengers drowning out his pleas, and she disappears into the crowd. He stands there, frozen in place, the chaos of the airport swirling around him like a tempest, the reality of his loss sinking in. The vibrant colors of the terminal fade into a dull gray. The laughter and excitement of departing travelers feels distant and hollow. As the final boarding call fades into silence, he realizes he is left holding only the remnants of their shattered bond, like grains of sand slipping through his fingers, lost forever in the vast, unyielding expanse of the world beyond. In that moment of stark clarity, he understands that he must act, not just out of desperation, but out of a deep, abiding love that refuses to let him stand idly by. He will fight for her, not just today, but every day that follows, until he finds a way to bring her back into the fold of their lives together. With renewed determination, he steels himself against the chaos, ready to pursue her, ready to reconnect, ready to remind her that love is a force that can conquer even the most enticing of escapes. The final boarding announcement reverberates through the terminal, slicing through the thick tension that clings to the air like fog. Maya turns on her heel, her back to him, the crispness of her jacket contrasting starkly with the chaotic colors of the crowd swirling around them. The distant sounds of luggage wheels clattering against the tiled floor and disembodied voices echoing through the speakers blend into a cacophony that amplifies his desperation. "I can't let this happen," he thinks, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. Each beat is a reminder of all that he stands to lose: his daughter, their bond, the very foundation of his world. As he watches her, a fierce mix of pride and fear surges within him. She walks with the confidence of someone who believes in their own choices, yet the vulnerability he knows lies just beneath the surface makes him ache. "Maya!" he calls out, his voice cracking under the weight of his emotion, but she doesn't turn. "Please, just listen to me for a moment." He takes a step forward, the space between them feeling like a chasm, one that he fears is widening with every passing second. "Dad, just stop." She spins around, her eyes blazing with defiance, but he catches a flicker of uncertainty, the briefest crack in her armor. "You don't understand. You think I'm throwing everything away, but I'm not. I'm finally taking control of my life." Control. The word hangs in the air, heavy and charged. He remembers the countless evenings spent at the kitchen table, helping her with her homework, teaching her that control comes from understanding one's circumstances, not running away from them. "But Maya," he implores, "you're not just taking control. You're running towards something you don't even know." She shakes her head, a stubborn set to her jaw that he recognizes all too well. "You don't get it. I'm not running away from anything. I'm running towards my future." Her voice rises above the hum of the terminal, drawing glances from passing travelers. As she speaks, flashes of her childhood flood his mind. The laughter shared over board games, the late-night whispers of dreams and fears, the way she used to curl up against him with a book as he read aloud. The memories are bittersweet, tinged with a longing that feels like a wound that refuses to heal. "Maya, think about the people you're going to be with. Do you really trust them?" A flicker of doubt crosses her face, but she quickly masks it with defiance. "They understand me. They get what I want, what I need. More than you ever did. Anger laces her words, each one a sharpened arrow aimed at the heart of their relationship. His breath catches in his throat, a painful reminder of the years he spent cultivating her dreams, filling her with knowledge and love, only to have it all thrown back at him like an accusation. But what if they're just using you? He presses, desperation coating his voice. What if this isn't the real you, Maya? What if you're not just chasing a dream, but a fantasy? Her expression hardens, and he feels the distance grow, a physical manifestation of all the moments they had shared that now seem like shadows. You don't know them. You don't know me. The words strike him like a slap, and he battles the wave of hurt that threatens to drown him. A part of him wants to scream, to tell her that he's the one who knows her best, but another part, a quieter voice, urges him to tread carefully. I may not know your friends, but I know you, he says softly, his heart aching as he steps closer, narrowing the gap between them. And I know that the Maya I raised would never rush into something without thinking it through. For a heartbeat, silence envelopes them, thick and suffocating. The chaos of the airport fades into a distant murmur as they stand frozen in this moment, father and daughter locked in a silent battle of wills. He sees the conflict in her eyes, the way her resolve wavers like a candle flickering in a fierce wind. Maya, he whispers, I love you. I just want what's best for you. I don't want you to lose yourself in this pursuit. Her expression softens slightly, but the walls she has built around herself are formidable. You don't have to worry about me, Dad, she replies, though her voice lacks the conviction of earlier. I'll be fine. I just need to figure things out on my own. You don't have to do this alone, he pleads, his heart breaking at the thought of her facing the world without his guidance. You can always come back. We can work through this together. The boarding gate's digital clock ticks down, each second echoing like a countdown to an uncertain future. 1 hour until the plane takes off, he thinks, the reality of it crashing down on him. The weight of those words feels like a death sentence to their relationship, a finality he isn't ready to accept. You don't understand, she exclaims, her voice trembling, betraying the whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. I feel trapped, Dad. You've always wanted what's best for me, but what if what's best is out there? What if I never get this chance again? And what if it's the wrong chance? He counters, desperation creeping into his tone. What if it leads you somewhere you can't come back from? I can't just stand here and let you walk away without fighting for you. Maybe you should have fought harder before. Her words slice through the air, sharp and unforgiving. The accusation hangs heavy between them, an unresolved grievance that echoes back to the times he couldn't be there, the moments he missed while he was busy trying to provide for them. He stumbles, the fight draining from him. I thought I was doing what was best. I thought I was preparing you for life. And you didn't think that maybe I wanted more than what you planned for me? She asks, her voice quieter now, but still firm. I'm not a child anymore, Dad. I'm an adult. I deserve to make my own choices, even if they're mistakes. The truth of her words hits him like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of his lungs. He had always seen her as his little girl, the one who needed his guidance, but now, here she stood, a young woman ready to take flight. His heart aches with the realization that he can't protect her from every storm. Maya, he says, his voice trembling with emotion. I'm scared. The admission slips from his lips, raw and unfiltered. I'm scared of losing you to this world that feels so foreign to me. I don't want to see you hurt. For the first time, he sees the walls begin to crumble, the fierce defiance softening into something more vulnerable. I'm scared too, Dad, she admits, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what I'm doing, but if I don't try, I'll always wonder. The clock on the wall ticks down, each second a reminder of the impending separation. He takes a deep breath, the air thick with regret and affection. You don't have to prove anything to me, Maya. You already have everything you need inside you. Just don't forget where you came from. Tears well in her eyes, and for a moment he dares to hope. Perhaps they can bridge this chasm between them, reach across the divide that has formed. I'll always be here, he continues, his voice steady, waiting for you to come back. A small, flickering smile breaks through her tears, illuminating her face like a beacon. I love you, Dad, she says, and the warmth of her words wraps around his heart, momentarily dispelling the coldness of fear. I love you too, Maya, he replies, and in that moment, they are no longer just father and daughter, but two souls bound by love and the complexities of life. But the announcement blares again, a harsh reminder that time is slipping away. You need to go, he urges, his voice trembling with the weight of finality. I know, she replies, her voice breaking, but it doesn't mean I won't come back. I promise. With one last lingering look, she turns away, and in that instant, he feels the world shift beneath his feet. She walks toward the gate, her figure swallowed by the throng of travelers, and he fights the urge to call her back, to run after her. He stands rooted to the spot, watching as she disappears through the doorway, a part of him wishing he could follow her, to ensure she's safe, to shield her from the unknown. But he knows now that this is her journey, not his to control. As the last echoes of her footsteps fade, he closes his eyes, the weight of loss settling heavy in his chest. The terminal buzzes around him, a relentless tide of movement and noise, but he is suspended in time, lost in a moment that feels both final and filled with hope. Maya, he whispers into the chaos. May you find what you seek. With a deep breath, he turns and walks away from the gate, the determination to rebuild their connection burning brightly in his heart. The battle may not be over, but the war for their relationship has just begun. Maya's silhouette flickers against the stark, fluorescent lights of the terminal, a ghost of the girl he raised, now morphing into someone he barely recognizes. As she steps toward the gate, his heart splinters further, the sound of her suitcase wheels echoing in his mind like a countdown clock ticking toward the inevitable. It feels as if the air around him is thick with betrayal, a suffocating blanket he can't shake off. The gate attendant, a young woman with an air of indifference, watches the scene unfold with a detached curiosity, her eyes flitting between father and daughter, the warmth of familial love clashing against the coldness of duty. Please, Maya, he calls out, his voice cracking like dry earth underfoot. You don't have to do this. She pauses, just for a moment, her back to him, and he can almost feel the weight of the words left unspoken between them, a chasm they've been trying to bridge for years. Dad, stop, she snaps, her tone sharp enough to cut through the tension. I'm not a child anymore. This is my life, my choice. The finality in her voice stabs at him, and he takes a step closer, the crowd around him a blur of faces, none of them holding any meaning compared to the one that looms before him. You don't understand what you're getting into, he pleads, desperation clawing at his throat. Memories flood his mind. Her first day of school, the look of determination on her face as she learned to ride a bike, the countless nights spent reading stories together. Those moments feel like shards of glass now, too sharp to hold, too painful to embrace. I do understand. You just don't want to see it, she retorts, her voice rising, drawing the attention of nearby passengers. They glance over, some with sympathetic expressions, others with judgment. She bites her lip, the defiance in her posture wavering for just a heartbeat as her eyes dart to the gate, where the door stands open, an invitation to a world he fears will swallow her whole. Please, he whispers, the words slipping from his lips like a prayer. Just give it a moment. Think about it. The tension hangs between them, a fragile thread stretched to its limit, and Maya's expression shifts, caught between the fierce independence she craves and the love she feels for him. a battle of wills playing out in her eyes. He remembers the day she first expressed her desire to travel. Her cheeks flushed with excitement as she spoke of cities she dreamed of exploring, cultures she yearned to experience. But the reality of now, the urgency of the moment, darkens those dreams. "I'll be fine," she insists, her voice steadier now, but he hears the quiver beneath it, an echo of the little girl who once clung to his leg, afraid of the dark. "This is what I want, Dad. You have to trust me." Trust. The word hangs heavy, a weight he struggles to lift. In his mind, he sees the faces of her new friends, their laughter echoing like distant sirens, alluring and dangerous. He's seen their influence creep into her thoughts, their ideals weaving through her dreams like a vine choking the life out of a once thriving garden. "I can't just stand by and watch you walk into this," he asserts, fighting against the rising tide of despair. "You don't know what you're risking. You're not a child." Maya interrupts, her frustration bubbling over. "You think I'm naive, but I'm not. I have to do this for me. I need to find out who I am, separate from you, from everything." Her words are a knife, sharp and cutting. He feels the sting of them deep in his chest, and suddenly, he remembers the last summer they spent together at the lake, the way she had splashed water at him, laughter ringing like music in the air. She had been so carefree then, so full of light. Now that light feels extinguished, replaced by shadows of doubt. "Is it really worth it?" he asks, desperation lacing every word, his heart pounding as the boarding announcement crackles over the PA system, the voice echoing like a portent of doom. "What if you get hurt? What if they lead you down a path you can't return from?" Maya's expression softens momentarily, and he can see the flicker of doubt in her eyes. "I don't want that either, Dad, but I have to make my own mistakes. Isn't that part of growing up?" The question lingers, a haunting refrain that echoes in his mind. He wants to scream that there are dangers in the world that no parent can shield their child from, that the lessons learned from mistakes can sometimes come at a steep price. But he knows she's right, too. Growth requires risk, and he's been so afraid of losing her that he forgot to let her live. The seconds slip by, the plane's departure drawing closer, and he feels the weight of 1,000 fears pressing on him, suffocating in their intensity. The crowd around them ebbs and flows, a tide of strangers oblivious to the storm raging between father and daughter. With every passing second, the distance between them feels like an abyss, one that threatens to swallow their connection whole. "Just promise me you'll be careful," he finally says, his voice barely above a whisper, a last-ditch effort to reach her. "Promise me you'll call. I need to know you're safe." Her resolve falters, and for a brief moment, he sees the little girl who once trusted him completely, the one who would have promised anything just to make him smile. "I promise, Dad," she replies, her voice trembling now, the vulnerability breaking through her bravado. "I will. I'll call, I swear." The attendant clears her throat, the sound jarring in the fragile silence that hangs between them. "Final boarding for Flight 217 to San Francisco. All passengers, please proceed to Gate 14. Maya glances at the gate, her future beckoning her with open arms, and for a split second, he sees the flicker of fear in her eyes, a reflection of his own. "I have to go," she says, her voice steadier, yet tinged with uncertainty. She takes a step back, and he feels the air shift, the space between them widening. "Wait!" he calls, panic surging through him. "What if this is a mistake? What if you regret it?" Her gaze locks onto his, fierce and unyielding. "I won't know unless I try," she replies, her voice a mix of defiance and desperation. "I can't live my life for you, Dad. I have to find my own way. Please understand that." A wave of sadness washes over him, and he feels as if he is standing on the precipice of a great chasm, the ground crumbling beneath his feet. "I love you, Maya," he manages to say, the words slipping out like a lifeline in the storm. I love you too, Dad. Always. And just like that, she turns, her suitcase trailing behind her like a shadow, and he feels the world tilt on its axis as she walks away. Each step she takes is a dagger to his heart, and he fights to remain composed as he watches her approach the gate, the finality of her departure settling in like a lead weight in his chest. As she disappears through the gate, the vision of her childhood dances in his mind, a kaleidoscope of memories, laughter, and love. He wants to cry out, to run after her, to pull her back into the safety of his embrace, but he knows he can't. This is her journey now, and despite the ache in his heart, he has to let her go. The boarding door closes with a definitive thud behind her, sealing the fate of their relationship in that brief moment of separation. The bustling terminal continues around him, passengers rushing to their gates, laughter and chatter blending into a cacophony, but all he can hear is the deafening silence left in Maya's wake. He stares at the closed door, a heavy fog of despair wrapping around him, each beat of his heart echoing the finality of her departure. He feels the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him, the fear of what lies ahead for her. Will she find herself, or will she be lost in the vastness of the world? Suddenly, his phone buzzes in his pocket, a jarring reminder of reality. He pulls it out, his hands trembling as he sees her name flashing across the screen. Maya, he whispers, his voice barely audible above the noise of the terminal, hope surging through him like a ray of light. With a deep breath, he answers, desperate to hold onto the connection that still exists between them. Hello, Dad. Her voice is shaky, and he can hear the chaos of the terminal behind her, the rush of people, the distant roar of engines. I'm really scared. Time freezes, and in that moment the world fades away. She's still there, still reaching for him, and he knows he has to be strong for her. It's okay, honey. You're going to be okay. Just breathe. As she speaks, he can hear the sound of hope mingling with fear, and for the first time in what feels like an eternity, he begins to believe that maybe, just maybe, this journey isn't just about her leaving. It's about finding their way back to each other, one call at a time. The gate closed behind Maya with a finality that echoed through the cavernous terminal like a funeral bell tolling. The sound ricocheted in the father's chest, a heavy weight that pressed down on him, forcing the breath from his lungs. He stood frozen, a statue carved from despair, watching the last glimpse of his daughter fade into the throng of travelers. The air around him felt thick with betrayal, a suffocating reminder of the chasm that now lay between them. Sir, are you all right? A voice cut through his fog. An airport attendant, eyes wide with concern, hovered nearby, clipboard in hand. He blinked, momentarily disoriented. No, he croaked, the word barely making it past his lips. My daughter. She's leaving. The attendant nodded, her expression shifting from concern to something resembling sympathy, but he could see the judgment lurking behind her gaze. It happens all the time, sir. Kids grow up, they make their own choices. Choices, he echoed bitterly, the word tasting like ash. Is that what we call it now? Choices. He could feel the fire of his anger bubbling beneath the surface, but it was quickly eclipsed by the icy tendrils of fear wrapping around his heart. You don't know her. She's not ready. She's being pulled into something she can't understand. The attendant offered a polite smile, one that felt as hollow as the promises Maya had made to him just moments before. It's a part of life, sir. They need to explore, to discover who they are. It's healthy. Healthy. The word ricocheted in his mind like a bullet, leaving a trail of chaos in its wake. He could still see Maya's face, that mixture of determination and defiance, a reflection of the girl he'd nurtured, now hardened by the influences of a world he'd tried to shield her from. She was standing on the precipice of adulthood, eyes set on a horizon he couldn't see, and it terrified him. Just give me a moment, he said, turning away from her sympathetic gaze. He needed space, air that didn't carry the scent of finality and regret. He stepped deeper into the terminal, where the cacophony of voices and the hurried footsteps of travelers swirled around him like a storm, each sound a reminder of his impending loss. He found a bench near the bustling food court, the smells of coffee and pastries swirling together, creating an oddly comforting aroma amidst the chaos. He sat down heavily, his mind a whirlwind of memories and fears. Flashbacks danced in his thoughts. Maya as a toddler, her laughter ringing like music in his ears as they played in the backyard. The way she'd run to him after a fall, her tiny hands reaching for comfort. "Daddy, I'm okay," she would say, even as tears streamed down her cheeks. He'd pull her close, reassuring her with whispered promises that no matter what, he would always be there. But now, she was stepping into a world he couldn't protect her from, a world filled with people who might not have her best interests at heart. Why didn't I see it before? He thought, the realization crashing over him like a wave. Her friends, those new faces that had drawn her away from him, were shadows lurking in the corners of his mind. He remembered the late-night conversations, the way Maya's eyes sparkled with excitement when she spoke about them. But he also recalled the subtle changes in her demeanor. There had been a distance, a hesitance in her voice when they talked about her plans, as if she was trying to shield him from the truth. The attendant's words echoed again, a reminder that he hadn't truly listened. It was a lesson he had learned in his years of teaching, but one he failed to apply to his own daughter. She needs to explore, he had told himself, but now it felt like a betrayal of their bond. A bond he thought was unbreakable. As he sat there, lost in thought, the overhead announcement jolted him back to reality. Flight 234 to Los Angeles is now boarding at Gate 12.
Gate 12.
Maya's flight. The words struck him like a physical blow, and suddenly, he was on his feet, adrenaline surging through him. He couldn't let her go. Not like this, not without a fight. He had to reach her, to make her understand the weight of her decision. Pushing through the crowd, he navigated the maze of travelers, each face a blur as he focused solely on the goal ahead. His heart raced, pounding in his ears as he darted past families, couples, and solo travelers, all blissfully unaware of the turmoil raging within him. "Excuse me, excuse me," he called out, the urgency in his voice rising above the din. He could feel the heat of panic rising in him, a desperate need to grasp hold of her before she vanished completely. He rounded the corner, spotting the line of passengers inching toward the gate. Maya stood there, her back to him, the soft curve of her shoulders a heartbreaking reminder of the girl she used to be. He could see the white of her boarding pass in her hand, the tangible proof of her escape, and it fueled his determination like a fire igniting in his chest. "Maya!" he shouted, the word bursting from his lips like a lifeline thrown into the tumultuous sea. Instantly, her head whipped around, and their eyes locked in a moment stretched thin by the weight of unsaid words. "Dad!" Her voice cracked, a mixture of surprise and confusion. For a heartbeat, time stood still. The world around them faded, leaving only the two of them suspended in a fragile moment of connection. "Please," he implored, his voice trembling. "Don't go. Not like this. We need to talk." "Maya, it's just—" He struggled to find the words, his mind racing to catch up with the emotions flooding his heart. "I don't want to lose you. I'm scared for you." She shifted her weight, a defensive posture that sent a pang through him. "You don't understand. This is what I want. What I need." Her voice rose, carrying the weight of her frustration. Yet beneath it lay a hint of vulnerability that stirred something deep within him. "Do you really think this is what you need?" he countered, desperation leaking into his tone. "Running away from everything you know? You think those friends will take care of you? You don't even know them. They're not just friends, Dad. They see me for who I am." Her eyes flashed with hurt, a reflection of his own internal struggle. "You see me as a child who needs protecting. I need to find my own way. I can't keep living in your shadow." In that instant, the truth cut deeper than any knife. He had been so focused on safeguarding her, on keeping her close, that he hadn't recognized the very real desire within her to break free, to carve out her own identity. "You're not just my daughter," he admitted, his voice low. "You're my whole world." Silence hung between them, thick and heavy, the unspoken words hanging like a fragile thread, ready to snap at the slightest tug. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, and he felt the gravity of the moment pulling him under. "Maya," he said, his voice softer now, steadying himself against the rising tide of emotion. "I can't promise I'll understand everything you want to do, but I can promise I'll always be here for you. Don't you see? We can navigate this together." For a moment, her expression wavered, the hard lines of defiance softening as she searched his face for sincerity. "But what if I fail?" she whispered. "What if I make mistakes? Then we'll face them together," he replied, his heart pounding, each beat a plea for her to reconsider. "You don't have to do this alone. You never did." A flicker of hope ignited in her eyes, a glimpse of the little girl who used to run to him for comfort. But just as quickly, the walls began to rise again. "I need to go, Dad. I have to try." He reached out, fingers brushing against her arm, a fragile connection that felt like a lifeline. "Then let me at least say goodbye properly. Just promise me you'll call. Let me know you're okay." The silence stretched again, but this time it felt less like a chasm and more like a bridge. "I promise," she said finally, a whisper that hung in the air like a fragile thread. With a trembling hand, she reached for his, and in that moment, the world around them faded again. He could feel the warmth of her skin, the familiar softness that had been a constant comfort in his life. "I love you, Maya," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I love you too, Dad," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, but the sincerity wrapped around him like a warm embrace. As they stood there, moments stretched into eternity, and for the first time in what felt like ages, he felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. The journey ahead would be fraught with uncertainty, but perhaps this wasn't the end after all. Maybe it was just the beginning of a different kind of understanding, a path forged from love, trust, and the bittersweet ache of letting go. And as the boarding call echoed through the terminal once more, Maya turned toward the gate, her heart navigating the delicate balance between independence and connection, leaving him with the promise of tomorrow, a promise built on the foundation of their love. The announcement crackled over the terminal's PA system, the voice distorted yet strangely familiar, slicing through the hum of travelers and the rustle of luggage. "Flight 238 to Los Angeles is now boarding at Gate 12. The words hung in the air, heavy as lead, marking the finality of Maya's departure. The crowd surged forward, eager and oblivious to the storm brewing just a few feet away. He stands rooted to the ground, the world around him blurring into a haze. His heart beats a frantic rhythm, each thud echoing the sinking realization that time is slipping away. 1 hour until the plane takes off, and with it, his daughter. The air around him feels thick with betrayal, a choking reminder of her defiance. How had they arrived at this moment, where love and loyalty seemed to teeter on the edge of a precipice? Maya, her vibrant spirit a stark contrast to the dull gray of the terminal walls, moves toward the gate, her back straight and her head held high. She glances over her shoulder, her eyes alight with a fierce determination that both inspires and terrifies him. In that fleeting moment, she looks like the little girl he once knew, the one who would run to him with scraped knees and a heart full of dreams. But now, there's a wall between them, built from secrets and misunderstandings that he cannot seem to breach. "Please, Maya," he calls out, his voice trembling with an urgency that surprises even him. She hesitates, the tension in the air thickening like fog, but then she turns fully toward him. "What more do you want from me, Dad? I've made my decision." Her words slice through his heart, each syllable dripping with the weight of finality. He wants to scream, to plead, to shake her until she sees the danger lurking beyond the bright lights of her new life. But instead, he exhales slowly, forcing himself to calm the tempest of emotions swirling within. Just let's talk about this. You don't have to do this. His voice cracks, revealing the chasm of fear that lies beneath his composed exterior. She shakes her head, a cascade of dark hair framing her face, as if to shield her from his pleading gaze. You don't understand. This is my chance. I can't stay here forever, living under your shadow. The words hit him like a physical blow, and he flinches, thinking of all the times he had tried to guide her, to protect her from the world's harshness. Under my shadow? He echoes, his voice barely more than a whisper. Memories flood his mind. The late nights spent helping her with homework, the countless hours spent at the park where he taught her to ride a bike, the laughter they shared around the dinner table. Had he suffocated her with love? Had he unknowingly become the very obstacle she now sought to escape? Yes, you don't get it. You're trying to keep me safe, but you're also keeping me from living, from finding out who I am. She steps closer, her eyes fierce, but he sees the flicker of doubt beneath the surface. Just a flicker, but it's there, like a candle struggling against the wind. Who you are? Maya, you're still figuring that out. You don't need to run away to find yourself. You're right here with me. He gestures between them, desperation clawing at his throat. We can work through this together. Together. She scoffs, the sound like shattering glass. You mean I have to fit into your idea of who I should be? That's not how this works. The other passengers bustle past them, some casting sidelong glances, their expressions a mix of curiosity and judgment. The attendant at the gate, a middle-aged woman with a tired smile, looks on with a detached interest, as if their family drama is just another show in a long series of performances she's witnessed. Please, just think about it, he implores, his voice rising above the noise of the terminal. You're making a choice that could change everything. You don't know what's out there. It's not just excitement and freedom. It's also danger. You're not ready for this. Maya's face softens for the briefest moment, and he wonders if he's finally struck a chord. But then the mask of determination slips back into place, and she takes another step toward the gate. I have to find out for myself, Dad. I can't keep living in fear of what might happen. If I fail, then that's on me. I need to know what it's like to stand on my own. The words hang between them, palpable and painful. He knows she is right about one thing. She must forge her own path. But the thought of her out there, alone and vulnerable, sends a shiver of dread down his spine. How did they reach this point where her independence felt like a dagger aimed at his heart? Remember that summer at the lake? He says suddenly, the memory rushing back like a wave crashing against the shore. You were so afraid to jump off the dock. You thought you'd sink. She pauses, the flicker of nostalgia crossing her face. Yeah, but I did it, didn't I? Yes, you did. He takes a step closer, desperate for any connection. And when you jumped, you realized you could swim. You found out you were strong enough. But you didn't do it alone, Maya. You had me there, cheering you on. I was your safety net. But Dad, I can't keep relying on you to catch me every time. I have to learn to swim on my own. Her voice wavers, and he sees the turmoil beneath her bravado. She is scared too, and that gives him a glimmer of hope. Just promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you'll call. Don't shut me out. The words spill from him, a desperate plea wrapped in a father's love. I promise, she says, and her voice softens. But he knows the promise of a daughter chasing her dreams can be as fragile as the wings of a butterfly. Just one more thing, he adds, his heart racing as the seconds tick away. If you ever feel lost or scared, just remember that you have a home to come back to. No matter what happens, I'll always be here. Maya nods, her expression a mixture of gratitude and sorrow, and for a moment, he believes she might turn back. But then the gate attendant calls her name, her voice firm and unwavering, "Maya, it's time to board." The moment shatters, and he watches as she glances back, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features. His heart aches, a deep, hollow ache that resonates with the knowledge that he may never fully understand her journey. She hesitates, and in that pause, he sees the young girl he once knew, the girl who needed him to guide her through the dark waters of life. But then she straightens, the resolve flooding back into her posture. She turns her back to him, and he knows this is it. This is the moment he has been dreading. "Goodbye, Maya," he whispers, though he knows she cannot hear him over the thrumming chaos of the terminal. As she walks away, he feels the distance between them stretch like an insurmountable chasm, each step she takes pulling her further from his grasp. The weight of her absence settles heavily upon him, a shroud of despair that threatens to consume him whole. The sounds of the terminal fade away, replaced by a deafening silence as he stands alone, a lone figure amid the bustling crowd. He watches her disappear through the gate, a part of him yearning to chase after her, to pull her back into the safety of his arms. But he knows he cannot. She has to fly on her own, and he must learn to let go. As the boarding door swings shut behind her, sealing her fate, he takes a deep breath, the air thick with unspoken words and lingering fears. He feels small in this vast world, but he also feels a flicker of something else, hope, perhaps. Hope that she will find her way, that she will soar, and that one day they will find their way back to each other. With a heavy heart, he turns away from the gate, each step a painful reminder of what he has lost. The terminal continues to buzz around him, filled with laughter and excitement, but he feels only the weight of his solitude. He is a father who has lost his daughter, if only for a moment, and he must navigate the uncertainty of the future without her. As he walks toward the exit, the dread begins to settle into a familiar ache, a bittersweet reminder of love, loss, and the fragile threads that bind them. He knows he cannot control her choices, but he can still offer her the love she needs, even from a distance. And in that love, perhaps there lies the promise of hope. Hope that she will find herself, and hope that they will find their way back to each other again. The gate's fluorescent lights flicker above him, casting an unflattering glow on the sea of hurried faces. The air around him feels thick with betrayal, electric with the tension of impending loss. He stands frozen, a solitary figure amidst a world bustling with travelers. Maya is gone now, swallowed by the crowd, her back turned to him, and with every step she takes toward the boarding tunnel, a piece of his heart fragments, falling away like autumn leaves caught in a relentless wind. He clenches his fists, feeling the rough fabric of his jeans bite into his palms, grounding him against the swell of emotions threatening to pull him under. He can still hear her voice echoing in his mind, a mixture of defiance and determination. "Dad, I need this. I need to find my own path." How had they arrived at this moment? The details of their earlier conversations blur, tainted by the haze of his heartache. She was a child just yesterday, her laughter ringing through their home like music. Now, she stands on the brink of adulthood, and he feels as though he's watching her leap into an abyss. "Sir, are you all right?" A voice breaks through the fog. He blinks and turns to face an airport attendant, her uniform crisp and professional, yet her eyes betray a hint of concern. She seems like a fixture of this world, a cog in the machine of travel and departure. He forces a smile, but it feels brittle, like dried leaves crumbling underfoot. "Just watching my daughter leave," he replies, his voice catching slightly. The attendant nods empathetically, the kind of understanding only someone who has witnessed countless farewells can muster. "That's tough," she says softly, glancing in the direction Maya disappeared. "She'll be back. They always come back." He wishes he could believe her. Always is a word weighted with hope, yet it feels dangerously precarious, like a tightrope strung high above a chasm. His thoughts spiral, and he can almost hear the seductive whisper of doubt. What if Maya doesn't come back? What if she becomes lost in this pursuit of freedom, ensnared by the very friends he fears? His mind races back to the night they first met Maya's new friends, a whirlwind of laughter, music, and reckless abandon. He had felt a pang of unease as they gathered in their living room, their energy a stark contrast to the quiet life he and Maya had shared. Were they truly friends, or merely a gateway to recklessness? In the dim light, he had watched their interactions, searching for signs of manipulation, of ulterior motives. But all he saw was Maya, her spirit ignited by their presence, and it terrified him. The announcement for boarding echoes through the terminal, a mechanical voice that seems to cut through the chaos like a knife. Flight 672 to San Francisco is now boarding at gate D12. His heart sinks. With a sudden surge of resolve, he pushes past the attendant, his legs moving almost of their own accord. He needs to stop her, to pull her back from the edge of this precipice. Each step toward gate D12 feels like a march toward a battle line. He can see the crowd thickening, a mass of strangers absorbed in their own lives. But for him, every face is a reminder of what he stands to lose. As he approaches the gate, the boarding area is a cacophony of shuffling feet and muffled conversations, punctuated by the occasional laugh, a stark contrast to the dread he feels settling in his chest. He scans the crowd, searching for the familiar silhouette of his daughter. Anxiety coils in his stomach like a snake ready to strike. What if he's too late? And then he sees her, a dark-haired figure standing by the jet bridge, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her gaze fixed ahead, a mixture of excitement and trepidation flickering across her face. Maya is so close, yet she feels a world away. "Dad!" Her voice cuts through the noise, and she turns, her eyes wide with surprise and something else. Fear? Regret? He hopes it's both, but he can't afford to be optimistic now. "Maya, wait!" He calls out, desperation clawing at his throat. The crowd seems to part for him as he pushes through, his heart thundering. She hesitates, her feet shifting as if caught between two worlds. "Dad, you shouldn't be here." The words spill out, sharp and defensive, but beneath that surface lies the unmistakable tremor of uncertainty. "Please, just listen to me," he implores, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I know this feels like your moment, but I can't let you go like this. Not when I don't know who you'll be with, what you'll be doing." Her brow furrows, and for a flicker of an instant, he sees the little girl she used to be, the one who used to curl up in his lap, eyes sparkling as he read her stories of adventure and bravery. "You don't understand. I have to do this for me. I can't live in your shadow forever." He flinches at her words, each syllable striking him like a blow. "I'm not trying to cast a shadow, Maya. I'm trying to protect you." The urgency of his plea fills the air between them, thick with emotion. "Protect me from what?" she snaps, frustration spilling over. "From living my life? From making my own choices? You keep saying you want me to be independent, but this..." She gestures at the gate, at the airplane waiting to whisk her away. "This is my chance, Dad." He looks at her, truly looks, and feels the weight of their shared history pressing down on him. What has he done? Has he smothered her in his desire to keep her safe? In his heart, he knows she's right. He has tried to shield her from the world, to mold her into a version of herself that would never know the kind of pain he has endured. But then he remembers the late nights he spent worrying about the dangers lurking in the shadows of independence, the heartbreaks, the failures, the disappointments that could swallow her whole. "Maya, you don't know what's out there. It's not just adventure. It's risk. You could get hurt. Isn't that part of growing up?" Her voice trembles, and for a moment, he can see the girl behind the bravado. "Isn't that what you taught me?" His heart clenches painfully, memories crashing against him like waves. He had taught her to be brave, to chase her dreams, but he never anticipated the price of that freedom. Yes, it is, but I didn't think it would mean leaving me behind. She falters, the tension in her shoulders easing just a fraction. He senses the chasm between them narrowing, but it's still a long way off. I'm not leaving you behind, Dad. I'm just moving forward. Her eyes shimmer with unshed tears, a reflection of the struggle within her. I don't want to lose you, he admits, a raw confession that hangs heavy between them. You're my daughter, and I love you. I feel like I'm losing the one thing I've fought so hard to protect. Maya's expression shifts, and for a moment, he dares to hope that she understands. And I love you, Dad, but I need to find out who I am without you always being my safety net. The boarding announcement crackles again, the voice a relentless reminder of the time slipping away. He glances at the gate, then back at her, desperation clawing at his throat. Just promise me you'll be careful, he urges, a plea wrapped in a father's love. Promise me you'll call. Let me know you're okay. She searches his face, vulnerability etched into her features. I promise, she whispers, her voice barely audible over the noise. I'll call. I'll let you know. With one last glance, she steps back, her backpack shifting slightly as she prepares to turn away. The moment stretches, suspended in time, as he fights to hold on to her. Wait! She pauses, looking back at him, and in that moment, he knows he has to let her go. He swallows hard against the grief that threatens to overflow. I'm proud of you, Maya, no matter what happens. A flicker of surprise crosses her face, and for the first time, he sees a glimmer of hope. Thank you, Dad. And then, in a rush of bittersweet urgency, she turns and walks toward the jet bridge, her silhouette merging with the thrumming energy of the airport. He watches her go, the ache of loss mingling with a reluctant pride, knowing that he has set her free, even if it feels like a part of him has been torn away in the process. As the gate agent scans her boarding pass, he feels the world around him fade into the background, the chaos and noise blurring into insignificance. She disappears through the doorway, and he stands there, heart heavy yet strangely lighter, a father who has finally learned that sometimes love means letting go, even when it feels like breaking. The terminal buzzes with life, yet for him, everything is muted. He breathes in deeply, letting the reality settle around him. She's gone, but she is also on the cusp of becoming something new, something he can only hope will be beautiful. He closes his eyes, visualizing her future, and whispers a silent prayer for her safety, her growth, and the possibility of reunion. And as he turns to leave, he knows that this is not the end, but merely the beginning of a new chapter, one that he hopes they can write together someday. The gate looms ahead, a yawning maw of steel and glass, swallowing the hopes and dreams of those who dare to step inside. Maya walks with a determination that slices through the thick air of the terminal, each step echoing the frantic beating of her father's heart. He stands frozen, a statue carved from dread and regret, watching her silhouette blend into the throng of travelers. It feels as if the very ground beneath his feet is crumbling, leaving him teetering on the edge of an abyss where he might lose her forever. Just breathe, he whispers to himself, though it does little to quell the storm churning within. The cacophony of announcements blaring over the intercom merges with the chatter of families, laughter bubbling up amid the tension. He can see other parents, wistful yet proud, waving goodbye as their children embark on new adventures. But his pride feels buried beneath the weight of betrayal. Maya pauses, glancing over her shoulder, her eyes shimmering with a mixture of defiance and something softer. Regret? The moment stretches like taffy, sticky and painful, and he can almost hear the unspoken words hanging between them. He longs to bridge that distance, to pull her back into the warmth of their shared memories, but the fear of pushing her further away holds him captive. Dad, she finally calls, her voice wavering like a tightrope walker balancing between resolve and uncertainty. "Please," he begs, his voice cracking as he fights to maintain his composure. "You don't have to do this. We can figure it out together." The sincerity in his plea is palpable, a lifeline thrown into the turbulent sea of their conflict. Maya shakes her head, frustration flashing across her features. "You don't understand. This isn't just about leaving. It's about finding myself." A wave of nostalgia crashes over him, memories of her as a little girl, all wide-eyed wonder and innocent dreams. "Finding yourself?" he echoes, his voice raw. "You're only 18. You haven't even begun to understand the world yet. These friends of yours, they're not what you think." "They are exactly who I think they are," she snaps, the tension in her voice sharp enough to cut through the noise of the terminal. "You only see the worst in people, Dad. You don't know them like I do." His heart sinks further, the chasm widening. "And what if they lead you astray? What if you find yourself lost instead?" Maya's eyes flash with hurt, and in that instant, he sees everything he fears: the reckless abandon of youth, the allure of freedom that might lead her into danger. It's a tempest of emotion, a cocktail of love and fear, and it threatens to spill over. "In life, we have to take risks," she says, her voice steadier now. "If I don't try, I'll regret it forever." A memory flickers in his mind, her first bike ride. He had stood on the sidelines, heart in his throat, wrestling with the urge to rush forward and steady her as she wobbled. But she had smiled over her shoulder, a radiant beam of confidence. And with a final push, she had soared down the street, laughter trailing behind her like a comet's tail. He had let her go then, and she had thrived. But this feels different. This is not a bike ride. It's a leap into the unknown, a plunge into a world where he cannot follow. "What if you fall and can't get back up?" he asks, desperation bleeding into his voice. Maya's expression softens, a flicker of understanding passing between them. "We all fall, Dad. It's part of growing up. But you taught me to get back up." That truth hits him like a punch to the gut. The years of teaching, of nurturing resilience, echo in her words. He had prepared her for this moment, yet he hadn't prepared himself for the fallout. "What about us?" he whispers, the urgency of his plea hanging in the air. "What happens when you're gone? Will you still remember me?" Maya bites her lip, the weight of his question anchoring her feet to the ground. "Of course I will, but I need to do this. Not just for me, but for us." The crowd swirls around them, a living entity that pushes and pulls, and he feels the pressure of time pressing against his chest. The flight is imminent, and every tick of the clock reverberates like a tolling bell. "You still have time to change your mind," he urges, the hope in his voice trembling like a candle flickering in the wind. But Maya shakes her head, the fierce resolve hardening her features. "I can't keep living my life for you, Dad. This is my chance." Pain stabs through him, raw and unrelenting. The realization that she might walk away from him, not just physically but emotionally, is a jagged shard lodged deep in his heart. "I'm not asking you to live for me. I just want you to be safe," he implores, his voice breaking. She takes a step back, the distance between them now feeling insurmountable. "I love you, but I need to find out who I am outside of this place. Outside of us." The finality in her words is suffocating, a heavy blanket that stifles hope. He feels the tears prick at the corners of his eyes, a betrayal of the stalwart father he wishes to be. "You're my little girl," he chokes out, the truth of it unraveling him. "I don't want to lose you." Maya's eyes glisten, a storm of emotion swirling within them. "You won't lose me, Dad. I promise I'll call." But promises feel as fragile as glass in that moment, and he knows the world is not kind to the tender-hearted. "Call?" he echoes, desperation clawing at his throat. "But what if you don't? What if you forget?" "I won't forget," she cries, the passion of her youth igniting within her as she takes a step forward, her voice a blend of anger and anguish. I can't be the person you want me to be. I have to be me. With that, she turns and strides toward the gate, each step an exclamation point punctuating the end of their chapter. He feels his breath hitch, a sense of helplessness washing over him like a tidal wave, drowning his resolve. Wait! He lunges forward, adrenaline coursing through him. But the attendant at the gate holds up a hand, a barrier between him and his daughter. Sir, you can't cross this line, she says, her voice sterile and devoid of empathy. He stops, the words clawing at his throat. But she's my daughter. She can't go. The attendant's expression is firm, a mask of professionalism that offers no solace. She's of age, sir. It's her decision. The truth of her statement reverberates through him like a death knell. Maya is indeed an adult, free to make her choices, even the ones that will lead her away from him. Maya, he calls, his voice rising above the din of the terminal, the last vestiges of hope spilling out like sand through an hourglass. Please. She pauses, a fleeting moment where time seems to hang suspended, and for a brief second, he thinks she might turn back. But then she shakes her head, tears shimmering in her eyes, and continues onward, each step a dagger to his heart. And just like that, she disappears through the gate, swallowed by the thrumming pulse of the airport, leaving him standing alone in a sea of faces, each one oblivious to the quiet devastation unfolding in their midst. He sinks onto a nearby bench, the world around him blurring as he grapples with the enormity of the moment. The chaos of the terminal fades into a dull roar, and for a heartbeat, he feels utterly adrift, unmoored from the very essence of who he is. He clenches his fists, the nails biting into his palms as he wrestles with the storm of emotions swirling within him. Betrayal, fear, and love collide in a dizzying whirlwind, leaving him reeling. What does it mean to let go? To accept that she must carve her path, even if it means walking away from him? As the seconds stretch into minutes, he draws in a shaky breath, the air heavy with the scent of metal and anticipation. He reaches for his phone, trembling fingers dialing her number, half hoping for a miracle. But deep down, he knows he must face the truth, that she is stepping into a life uncharted, a journey he cannot navigate for her. The line rings, each tone reverberating through him like an echo of their past, and he braces himself for the call that may never come. The reality of her absence settles in, a weight that crushes him. Yet within that heaviness lies a flicker of understanding. She is his daughter, his little girl, but she is also her own person, a wild spirit yearning for freedom. And as painful as it may be, he knows that sometimes love means letting go. With the last ring echoing in his ear, he hangs up, the decision made, even if it shatters him. He watches as the planes soar into the sky, each one a vessel of dreams and hopes, carrying away pieces of his heart. And as he sits in the bustling terminal, surrounded by the pulse of life moving forward, he understands that while this chapter may be closing, the story of their love will continue to unfold in ways he cannot yet fathom.